Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the second day of day 18. We are going to be working on handout 18B today. We're going to be reading a couple more chapters, and we're going to be doing a question set, and then we're going to be wrapping up this lesson. So go ahead and take out your handout 18B on Schoology. Pause the video and do so now. All right, so for your focusing question task 5, you're going to write a comparison contrasting essay, similar to the one that you just studied yesterday. You'll be comparing and contrasting Sound of Running Feet and Chief Joseph's beliefs and values. So in this next part of the lesson, we're going to review the chapters that we've read recently and continue to gather evidence of the characters' beliefs and values. So when it comes time for you to write your essay, you're going to have plenty of evidence. So you're going to be able to choose the very best examples that you found of the beliefs and values that they share and the best examples that they don't share. So I bet this handout looks familiar. Go ahead, make sure you have it. And let's get started. So remember, I recopied the organizer into Schoology for you to work in. So yours looks a little different than mine. We've been spending a lot of time becoming experienced in recognizing Chief Joseph's and Sound of Running Feet's beliefs and values and using this evidence organizer. And you're becoming aware of how important this work is to prepare for writing your essay for focusing question task 5. So let's review your directions for today. Your job is to review chapters 10 through 14 for evidence of the characters. In this case, Chief Joseph and Sound of Running Feet and their beliefs and values. Think about looking for their thoughts, their words, their actions, and their interactions with other characters. Then you're going to record at least one piece of evidence for each character, provide a brief context, paraphrase underneath that, and then put the page number and add your elaboration. And it's absolutely okay if you find evidence that supports one of the beliefs and values that you've already identified. Or you might find some new evidence that reveals something completely new and different about your character's beliefs and values. And that's great too. Remember to label each one of the beliefs and values in the elaboration column with a hashtag similar if it represents a belief or value that both Chief Joseph and Sound of Running Feet share, or hashtag different if it represents a difference in their belief or value. So go ahead, pause the video, review chapters 10 through 14, and add a piece of evidence from those chapters for Sound of Running Feet and for Chief Joseph. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and press play, and we are going to move on to the next activity. So what are you noticing as you continue to gather evidence about Chief Joseph and Sound of Running Feet? What are you seeing about how each of them is guided by their core beliefs and values? You know, it's even interesting to think about how the different chiefs are guided by their values and how we would determine that through their actions and through their words. So you've done some really good work in this lesson to more deeply understand the characters and their similarities and differences. So while we're on a roll, let's do a quick review of the similarities and differences between Sound of Running Feet and the White Settler Women that we discussed yesterday. So for your final reflections, I want you to think back to the scenes in chapters 13 and 14. Those were the chapters where Sound of Running Feet is interacting with the white female settlers. So for this check for understanding, you're going to compare and contrast the characters. Answer the following questions in your journal. What is one important cultural difference between Sound of Running Feet and the white female settlers? What's one important thing they have in common as women? Pause the video and answer the questions in your Instinct journal under the Check for Understanding section. Okay, so were you surprised by what you discovered about the similarities and differences between Sound of Running Feet and the White Settler Women? Why or why not? It makes me curious about what their interactions will reveal over the course of the next few chapters. As you interact with people today, see if you can notice similarities in your beliefs and values. What's important to you and those other people? How can you tell? Through what people say, by what they do? But for now, we're going to go ahead and we are going to read chapter 15 and chapter 16, and then you're going to complete a question set.
Thunder Rolling in the Mountains, Chapter 15. Ferocious Bear and Tuhohoso were right, and 3 sons the Bluecoats caught up with us. We were traveling across a broad plain. Our scouts saw the dust from their horses and waved a red blanket to warn us. Lean Elk ordered the warriors to pull their ponies around and get ready to fight. While the warriors waited for the white soldiers, we escaped up a dry stream bed into a wide canyon. For 2 sons, Chief Joseph led us up the canyon. The trail took us across rolling hills covered with sagebrush. The canyon rim was rocky, and no trees grew there. We saw no bluecoats, only rabbits and ground squirrels and woodchucks. The shadows were long when Lean Elk and the warriors joined us. He was angry and at once called the council together. Chief Joseph halted our march, and the women made camp while the chiefs met. Swan Necklace led his pony to our fire. Across its back lay an antelope. He skinned it and cut the meat into chunks for roasting. We had not had fresh meat since we entered the Apsaracus. It's a bitter day for us, he said, wiping his knife on a clump of dry grass. Were many killed? I asked. None. 3 were wounded, but not bad. He grinned. The buffalo gun I took from a ranch shoots good. It speaks so loud, the Bluecoats think I have a cannon. For a moment, his heart was light. The Bluecoats lost many men, he said. They fight like women. I was puzzled. Why was the day bitter? I asked. The crows fought beside the Bluecoats, he said, his mouth twisting with disgust. When I saw them, my heart was just like fire. We battled the crows for 2 sons. I caught my breath. The world was against us. We could not fight forever. Swan Necklace saw the fear in my eyes. He placed a gentle hand on my chin and turned my face toward him. Do not fret, my love, he said. As long as I live, no Bluecoat will harm you. I smiled with my lips, but not with my heart. He loaded the rest of the antelope onto his pony and took it to the cooking fire of 2 moons. Before the morning stars shone, we broke camp. Lean Elk urged us to hurry. He said we must now fear all the tribes. We must go fast to the old lady's country. We left the canyon and moved north for 6 suns. Lean Elk drove us from dark to dark. The stars shone above us when we got onto our horses, and they shone when we got off. We rested little and traveled much. We were weary, and our ponies were weary. When we struck camp, the frost glittered on the prairie like a lake sparkling in the sun. The ground was still hard when the sun climbed halfway up the sky. I no longer packed my buffalo robe. After I climbed on my pony, I pulled it around me in Bending Willow. Our food ran low. There was no time to hunt. On the morning that we came to a herd of mountain sheep, there were only 2 cakes of camas roots and berries in the bag in my pony's saddle. The young men killed several sheep, but not enough to stay our hunger. Each family got only 1 small piece of meat. We waited until nightfall to eat it. We did not stop to cook while the sun was high. We buried the skins and the horns beside the trail. It hurt me to see the fleecy skins covered with earth, but we had no time to tan them for robes or make the horns into drinking cups. One day, we met a band of crows. They had been hunting dry buffalo meat. They were no longer our brothers, so we took their horses and left our worn-out ponies behind. With fresh horses, we could move faster. On the sixth sun, we came to a great river. On the other shore stood a few buildings. Beside them were boxes and boxes filled with supplies for the soldiers. At this place, the river was broad, but not deep. The water was so low that we could swim our horses across. There was no need to make bull boats. Some of our warriors crossed the river first. They called us to follow them. There were only a few white men, and they did not want to fight. Our food was almost gone. My father asked the white men for food. They gave him a slab of bacon and a small sack of hard bread. It was so little that it was worthless. My father's eyes were hard and angry. He led us up a small creek and told us to make camp. Then he left with the warriors. Soon we heard guns speak. The shooting went on until light streaked the eastern sky. It was not long after that the warriors rode into camp. They called us to bring the pack ponies and follow them. We hurried back to the river. The white men had fled. The warriors chopped open the boxes and reloaded the horses. We took flour and sugar, beans and bacon. We took coffee. We took pots to cook in, the first we had seen since Big Hole. The camp would feast that night. After we loaded the ponies, our warriors burned the rest of the supplies. No bluecoats would eat that food. As we rode north, a cold wind carried the smell of smoke from the river.
Okay, and let's move on to chapter 16.
Thunder Rolling in the Mountains, chapter 16. There was ice on the ground, and the wind blew hard. We suffered from the cold. The people wanted to rest. The old people said their bones were sore from so many days in the saddle. They wanted to rest beside a warm fire. The women said their children needed sleep. Their eyes were hollow, and their gaze was dim. There was no joy in the camp. Lean Elk stopped the march early. Once more the chiefs met. Their voices grew loud. "We must keep going," said Lean Elk. "When we cross the Bear Paw Mountains, we will come to the old lady's country. In 3 suns I will take us to Sitting Bull." "We are tired," said Looking Glass. "The old cannot travel at this pace. The children weep with weariness. We have beans and flour. We are in buffalo country. If we travel slow, our young men can kill buffalo." White Bird got to his feet. "Looking Glass speaks foolish words," he said. "Until we leave this country, we are hunted by bluecoats." But White Bird was the only chief who sided with Lean Elk. Chief Joseph looked around the circle. He looked deep into the eyes of the chiefs. He looked into his heart. "I fear for the lives of the old people," he said, "and I fear for us all. If we go fast, our ponies may wear out. Their hoofs are tender and some limp. If we go slow, we may be caught by the bluecoats." "Do not worry about the bluecoats," said Tuhohoso. His hand cut the air to show his contempt for the soldiers. "They are at least 2 days behind us. We can travel slow and stay ahead of them. Lean Elk is no chief for us," said Looking Glass. He stood tall and proud. His black hat trimmed with otter fur made him loom over the seated chiefs. "A chief does not wear out his people. A chief does not wear out his horses. Lean Elk should lead us no longer. Lean Elk stared hard at Looking Glass. His eyes were coals of hot fire. All right, Looking Glass, he said. You can lead. I am trying to save the people. You take command, but I think we will be caught and killed. He walked away from the chiefs and stood alone, a silent figure in the gathering dark. He stared at the distant Bear Paw Mountains. Looking Glass led us on short marches toward the star that never moves. We started after the sun rose and stopped before it left the sky. The people no longer muttered. After 4 suns, we crossed the Bear Paw Mountains. We were close to the lands of Sitting Bull. We traveled through a barren valley with no trees. Sagebrush grew here, but the long grass had frozen and was brown. It bent in the cold wind. We had been riding for a short while when Swan Necklace came back from the trail ahead. He said that the scouts had killed buffalo. The meat waited for us in a cove beside a stream. The sun was overhead when we reached the grasslands where the meat lay. Looking Glass said we would rest here until morning. Lean Elk said that we must keep on. This was a bad place to camp. Soldiers could sweep down on us from either side. But Looking Glass said our horses needed more rest. We would stay. He had chosen a cold place. The wind from the old lady's country swept across the land, turning our bones to ice. We had no teepees because we had left all our poles at Big Hole. The children huddled in deep ravines beside the creek, while we made shelters with buffalo skins and canvas. There was no wood, but many buffalo chips lay on the ground. They burned well. Soon fires blazed across the camp. We ate roasted buffalo until we could hold no more. Around the warm fires, people said what a good leader Looking Glass was. In less than 2 suns, we would be safe with Sitting Bull. Looking Glass had been right to march slow. It was a clear, cold night. The wind blew hard, and the brush stirred along the creek. Many chose to spend the night in the gullies, which were as deep as a standing man. Swan Necklace walked with me beside the creek. Buffalo robes wrapped us together against the cold. His arm was around my shoulder. Do not look so sad, he said. Soon we will be safe. Then my father will let the marriage go forward. When you finish our marriage blanket, I said. It seems strange to be talking about something besides the blue coats behind us. That will be soon, he said. He pressed me to him. I will gather colored earth from the old lady's land. It will be a beautiful blanket. We will sleep beneath it in our own teepee. The words were like honey to my ears, yet I was not at peace. I feared that Lean Elk was right. A misshapen moon streaked with red rode low in the eastern sky. I wondered if the ugly moon was a warning from the Great Spirit. Was it blood I saw on the rising moon? That night I lay awake, worrying about the soldiers. I heard the ponies moving about. They were restless. I was restless too. I trembled at the thought of what the morning might bring.
Okay, boys and girls, now that we have finished reading chapters 15 and 16, I would like for you to go on over to Schoology and open up your question set 23. You are going to read these 2 passages here and then answer each question as they come up. Please make sure to check to make sure that you only need to choose one answer for each. I'm going through and I'm looking for you right now. And that looks to be, oh, nope, this one, 2 pieces of evidence. So if you notice these square boxes, that means 2. Okay, so when you are done with this, you are done for the day, and great job. See you on Monday.